It's time for another You Are a Warrior podcast. I am Coach Kathy Wright with You Are a Warrior, and we're so excited to be in season 2. And this is now episode 3 with our wonderful, amazing, talented coach. Coach Sue Bowles from My Step Ahead. And she's here and she's going to talk to us today about purpose driven coaching. Hi, Coach Sue.
Kathy, it's good to see you again.
Oh my goodness, it's always so good to see you. So good. Can
We
you
can
tell
talk forever.
oh my goodness. Can you tell everybody about who you are and the kind of coaching that you do?
Sure. So I have an ACC certification, which is a global certification. I work with people who feel bruised, beat up, and broken by the world
Mm,
and don't and are doing the hard work to rewrite their narrative so they can get the story straight. Excuse me. So they can get the story straight and live the life they don't think they deserve. Now, that encompasses a whole lot of stuff from self talk to values, like we're going to talk about, to the things you tell yourself. I use the phrase getting the story straight and
mhm.
rewriting narratives and everything, boundaries, all kinds of things, because all of those life skills, soft life skills, go into who you are and how you're operating and how the world is affecting you. And that's what I work with people to help them change so they can become what they want.
I mean, you said so many things there, but the big thing that I heard was that self-talk. That self-talk thing is something else. Can you
Yeah.
give us a little bit more like what's an example of like stuff that people say to themselves, say about themselves that you think is harmful?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much. So say you're at the office and something happens. Okay, you made a mistake. Okay. So someone says, hey, they pointed out to you, hey, notice this, can you fix this? A lot of people are like, yeah, just move on, no problem. Then what's going on inside between the ears? It's, oh my gosh, I screwed up. Oh my gosh, now they're not gonna think I'm reliable. They're not gonna keep me here. I'm gonna lose my job because I screwed up, because I can't be perfect. I gotta be perfect in this job because this is just the way it has to be. And all
Mm,
that internal pressure you put on yourself. One thing we talk about is learning to let yourself off the hook. We look at expectations and where are they coming from, and what is driving that, and is that the whole picture. Usually negative self-talk has to do a lot with how you are interpreting something. So when I use this phrase, get the story straight, that's what I mean, because the story you are telling yourself is only part of what actually happened. It is your perception. So I work with clients that what I do called without attachment, like you're filling out in a police report. What are the facts? What are the observable behavior? And then we look at all the contributing things, because we look at a situation and then our mind automatically jumps to the negative, and we take that as fact, and it's not always fact.
it's not always fact. It's not a fact, but as coaches, like I resonate with like having a lot of clients who really like devalue themselves in their minds, like in their heads.
Mhm,
They're running all of these crazy stories about
mhm.
how they're not smart enough or good enough or not comparing themselves to others. And I think
Right.
it's just like it takes them down into a spiral that is just
Mhm.
not productive for what they really want to have happen in their life.
One of the key questions to anything, and I love to ask this question, and it's the answer is so revealing, and it's simply, do you believe that you matter? And how someone answers that question is the pivot point. It might be, maybe, I think so, I hope so, I like to think I do.
Mm-hmm.
But until someone can say, yes, I matter, and then they start seeing how that shows up in their everyday life, that's the pivot point, because so much of what has been told to you, that negative self-talk we started talking about, is because someone along the line said you are less than, maybe not in words but in deed or in experience. And that is what has become the mantra in your mind. And that somewhere along there, it starts translating to I don't matter.
Mm.
I let somebody speak to me that way. They're disrespecting me. Well, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to hurt their feelings. You just said you don't matter.
Wow. I mean, I just want you 100% like have named what I think I've experienced again with a lot of people that I coach. It makes me wonder, like, is there anything in your personal journey that kind of shaped your commitment to like helping
Mm.
people move through this through in this space of coaching?
Yeah, because I've walked it.
Mm.
I have walked it with my own personal story and having to, I've had to fight really hard for myself to tell myself that I matter and then to start living it. And now that I'm on that side, I understand what it's like to be on this side of the road.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what it takes to build that bridge to get to the other side. And I also know the freedom and the joy that comes from being on that other side.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to be a lighthouse of hope for others and be for others what others were for me at that point in time. And that's someone who cheers you, who will tell it straight, but tell it in love and walk with you and not judge you and support you and believe in you and hold out hope for you until you're strong enough to hold it for yourself.
I love that. I love that. I love that like you're sharing with us like your personal journey, and I think for a lot of us, especially, you know, you're a very high achieving person in general and just like as a coach, just really outstanding. And I think sometimes, and when you're a high achiever, it's easy to be performative, right? Like you're doing this for everybody else, but in your head you're having this whole mind party around how
Mm-hmm.
you're not good enough and all of that, and it can lead you to start creating like I just got to do more, like this hustle mentality. Have you seen
Yep.
people like telling themselves this story and then they become all of a sudden they're just always going, doing, going, doing?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and excuse me, yes, okay. And some of that is rooted in imposter syndrome, very much so, because again, that self-talk of I'm not good enough, of I'm in this job and they're expecting me to do this, and I don't know if I really have the confidence to really think I can stand up to these guys. So I'm going to prove myself by working hard. I'm going to stay later. I'm going to take on more projects and prove my worthiness because you're not sure about that yourself. So I see that a lot, honestly. And what is really helpful is entering into conversations about rest. And rest is more than sleep. One of my specialties is being a 7 types of rest coach. And there's 7 types of rest that every person needs. And when someone is caught up in hustle culture and then they start feeling that burnout, there is a rest deficit. And when we start digging into that of what is that feeling like? I had a client last month. We were talking about the 7 types of rest, and all that is based off of a book by Sandra Dalton Smith, and called Sacred Rest. And we were talking about that, and he works from home and he travels, and he was just feeling like he was always on, even after work. And what it came down to were some things about how long was the computer on? Did he turn it off at 5 o'clock or just shut the lid? Even if he did that, then the computer was on the dining room table. And that was his desk space. But he didn't remove the computer. So then his mind is always thinking about work. And the
Mm.
computer was not off. And he's watching television, but still has the work phone on him. And he told me, I still listen for notifications. So all of that was part of the hustle culture of feeling like he always had to be on, being over responsible, feeling like he couldn't dial down. And when you're in that hustle culture and your adrenaline is just pumping, you get on it's like being on a rat race,
Mm.
a mouse in a wheel, that you just keep going. And you're like, I need to get off and I can't find the exit ramp. Somebody help me or I'm going to totally lose it. And unfortunately, there are so many people in the workforce right now in that situation. And one by one, it has been so refreshing to help them start realizing what their responsibilities really are and where the unrealistic expectations crept in and what is the negative self-talk behind those unrealistic expectations. See how this all comes together?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
we start talking about, yes, the imposter syndrome and stuff, but then we start talking about rest and what would it look like. And just a couple little changes that he made. The next week he's like, oh my gosh,
Mm.
I feel so much calmer. I don't feel like I'm constantly on edge and just, having to be on. I can actually go out with coffee with my friends and not feel guilty. It is all intertwined.
It's I love the way that you like kind of package that all together, because I think what I was leaning into, right, for clients that kind of show up like this is like it's baseline fear, right? Like they're not, if they're not performing, if they're not doing these things, and somebody might see them as less than. But I don't think it starts off as fear. I think it starts off like almost like a seduction. Like, oh, I can do more things. I can do all these things, right? And it's cute at first until it's not, right? In our minds, we're thinking we're winning people over. Well, what's that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People?
Influence people.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right. We think
Dale
we're out here,
Carnegie and
right?
Audi.
Right? We're just, oh, let's just go and do, let's do and do and do and do, right? But you're doing really from a place of deficit mind think and mindset. Like I've got to do
Mhm.
more because if I don't, they're gonna see, right? And then you start to have fun with it, and then you realize you're burned out, right? Like you're like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, I can't break this cycle. So I love how you were able to like kind of intertwine that all together. So, like, is that like when you're working with someone, and I love this seven types of I've got to get that book out. Now I'm like, what is that? Right? That sounds really good. I'm like, but when you're working with someone and you're thinking through, helping them to think through and realize and have these aha moments around the ways that they've been showing up, is there any like how do you get them to hold on to the new ways of being? Because I think it's really hard to stop doing some of this stuff.
Mhm.
Like, are there any tools you
Yeah.
use?
Yeah, and a lot of it starts with identifying what's important to them. What are their values? Values-based coaching comes into play here because if like in the case of my client, so one of his values is being able to be available for friends,
Mm,
and he didn't feel he could because he felt tied to work and over responsible. So the boundary, he's over here, is where his reality is over here, and needing to draw that boundary that would then become the bridge to get him back to where he wanted to be. And a lot of it is helping clients first start talking about, all right, so what are the core values of your life? What are the, if you had to build things on these pillars, what would they be? And we go through a whole process, and we start out talking about how have you identified yourself in the past? How do others identify you? And then it is a whole process we go through. There's also a rest quiz, a seven types of rest quiz that
mhm,
Sandra has online. You can just go to restquiz.com and you can take that quiz, and that alone will give you, you'll get the results like in 10 minutes. And it gives you a brief thumbnail to see where's my life out of balance. And then that's where I, as a coach, can come in and help because I'm trained in how to coach around those things to help you find that balance. There's a lot of tools we can use to be a springboard to help people get, give them the insight. And the key to coaching is what does the client want to change?
mm,
Because you and I may see things from one perspective. Well, we think you should do this. Well, that's not coaching.
mhm.
That's consulting.
Yeah.
The coaching is helping the client understand their world, maybe with a little bit of a different perspective, and listening to them. So what do you want to do? And how do you want to get where you want to go? And how can we partner together? And that's when it gets fun.
And a lot of times, though, I find people when I ask them, "What do you want? What do you really want?" They go silent.
Mm-hmm.
And these are people that in any other situation can give you a laundry list of things that they want to get done at work and what they want to do for church
Mm-hmm.
and what they want to do with their
Mm-hmm.
family or whatever other things they're connected with. But when you have them sit in the energy of like, what do you really want, and center themselves in that space,
Mm-hmm.
they have a hard time doing that.
Yes, because all those things you just said are performance based. It's image based. It's keeping up the persona. It's wearing a mask. I wore a mask for decades where I was your go-to gal and you didn't know I was crumbling on the inside because it was my I was able to mask my insecurity is what it did. And that kept me from having an authentic relationship where I could be vulnerable. Vulnerability is becoming a lost art.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's really easy to hide behind the electronics and everything else. And we lose. We are designed to interact personally with people. So when someone is like, when you ask a client like, okay, where do you want to go? And they're like, I really don't know. Sometimes asking a back end question instead of where do you want to go, because it's very forward thinking, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, tell me where you've been that you don't want to repeat.
Mm.
Because the mind is geared to go to the negative, they're going to remember the negative. And that can be the jumping point because if they may not be to the point where they have a vision of where they want to go, but they sure as heck know where they don't want to go back to, and they're in this in between land. So okay, tell me where you've been
Yeah.
and where you're getting out of. And then we're going to talk, when we start talking about, okay, what about that was uncomfortable? What about that time of your life? What were the things you didn't like? What you see coming out in yourself? Because they are the best expert in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So if they can't answer, where do you want to go? Like, tell me where you've been
Hmm.
and what you don't want to go back to, because that much they know.
Yeah, and I think to your point, I think, it requires them to have a level of vulnerability in
Mhm,
this space. And I think for a lot of professionals that we work with, people in leadership, etc., vulnerability in the workspace is not necessarily rewarded, right? They want you to
mhm,
come in, they want you to have the data, they want you to, whatever level of
mhm,
execution they're expecting from you. And
mhm,
people sometimes don't feel safe, right, in that space, but
mhm,
that makes them, um and to your point, right, they end up always being on. They're always wearing a mask,
mhm,
like you said, and in the spaces where they can be softer or they can be more
right,
vulnerable. They end up not necessarily showing up that way, and in some cases they damage relationships. Have you seen or
mhm.
heard anything like that?
Yes. And usually when someone, if you're in a work situation where you know, you're there, you work, and then you leave, and there's really not a chance to interact with people, get to know people. Maybe you're in a large corporate environment, whatever it is. Maybe you're just having to be in your cubicle or whatever the situation is. If you're in such a situation where you can't really have those interpersonal contact, that personal interaction with people and develop relationships, sometimes that is also, and let me back up. If that is a situation and you're like, I can't get this at work, where am I going to get it? That tells me that you're looking to work to be the primary source of all of your social interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And that may be an unrealistic expectation that again can become the negative self-talk of, well, I can't even do that at work. So, I mean, nobody wants to be with me. So why am I even here? And it can tailspin in a hurry. It really can.
Mm-hmm.
So some of those things can also be indicative of, and it goes back to the rest. Where are you getting your social rest?
Mm.
Where do you have those relationships where you can be authentic? It may not be realistic to think you can have a best buddy at work that you can spill your guts to and is going to support you in everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're at work, work while you're at work, and the common goal of everyone is to better the company, better the organization. That's why they brought you on board, because they knew you could help them meet that goal. And in the work world, everything after that comes secondary. Because if the company is not there, you don't have a job. That's the hardcore truth of that.
Mm-hmm.
But it can get to unrealistic expectations. If you are looking to your coworkers to be your source of chumminess outside of the office, there's a lot of other conversation to have around that. Because I'd be curious as a coach, where else are you getting your social needs met?
Mm. Yeah, I do think that there are many people that I've met, not even that I've been coaching, right? But people that really center their lives around their job and the title in many cases that comes along
Mm-hmm.
with it. And that becomes their avatar for who they think they are and who they should be. And they're never really
Mm-hmm.
like authentically present when they're in
Right.
social situations or in other spaces. And so
Mm-hmm.
there's, to me, getting back to your original thing, it's like a misalignment of values, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you're valuing something because it's bringing you money or a title, but it's really misaligned to what you really want and the purpose you
Mm-hmm.
want to have in life. So my question is like if you're working with people who are in these spaces that are having these issues, like how do you help them to like still understand that they can lead from a place that's different than what they've known, right? That they can
Mm-hmm.
still create high value for the organizations, the
Mm-hmm.
relationships they're in. Like they can still create high value and but be really different perhaps in this
Right.
space.
Yeah, I think what we talk about life outside the office because when there's balance, it's easier to be more relaxed at work because the expectations are more realistic. The self-talk doesn't pummel you every time you walk through the door because you have that solid base, you have balance. If all you have is work, then everything else is very lacking.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can bring the other stuff that's lacking up the scale, then you have more balance, which then makes you a more efficient employee. You end up contributing more than you realize because it ends up being higher quality and maybe not so much quantity
Mm-hmm.
because the quality is where the ROI is for the employer. And so all those things you do outside of the office to work on you then returns to the employer because the person who's showing up at the office each day is a different person, more pleasant. Maybe you're more pleasant to the customers on the phone. You didn't realize you weren't being real pleasant to start with. Your
Mm-hmm.
coworkers enjoy being around you. You may be giving your coworkers permission to laugh or to relax or exhale a little. But the same thing that you're looking for, they might be looking for too. And when you have that balance, it shows just in feeling more relaxed. And then stress isn't as high. And then the snippiness that happens when stress gets high is less, which obviously makes the supervisor a lot happier because there's less conflict everywhere. And then people can focus more on their jobs because also when you have the stress and the snippiness, that negative self talk starts kicking in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, how you describe it though is just so accurate. I think for a lot of people who are in workspaces trying to navigate and hold on to an identity that maybe is just misaligned, from to what other people value and not what they value. So I love that throughout all of this, like you kind of like really like been really hitting at the point is it's about what you value. Like, do you value balance, right? That was the last thing you just mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
right? Do you value that? If you do, like, can you be intentional in creating the conditions where balance occurs for you, not just at work, but in your mind and how you
Mm-hmm.
process and how you show up for others? It
Right.
just has to be part of that conversation for you.
Yeah, very much so. And it's yeah, it's not an easy place to start. And that's where you and I as coaches come in to be able to create a safe place because maybe the person has never had a safe person to talk to.
Mm.
And that may very well be the situation. So if that has not been your experience, by no means is someone saying, well, go into work and be vulnerable. No, that's not wise.
Yeah, yeah.
But if there are things that you are noticing that you are like, something's not quite right, and I don't like who I'm becoming, that's where a life coach can come in because we're trained. We know how to help you get where you want to go. Even when you may not be able to articulate what that is just yet, it's like we talked about a minute ago, you can at least tell us where are you now? What don't you like about that?
Mm.
Because that's a starting point. And then from there, you go, okay, so then you start working the opposites. And through those things, we can help you get where you want to go. It's vulnerability is not easy. And it's also a life changing and life saving skill and value. And the one common denominator of it all is that you have to take the first step. No one can make you talk. Nobody can make you share the things that you're afraid of sharing. And when you believe that you matter enough to pick up the phone or send an email, because that's what you're saying. When you do that, when you reach out for some support, you are saying, I believe I matter enough to take a risk. And that's where life gets exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're spot on. And it is, you said something really that resonated with me. It's life saving.
Mm-hmm,
I was looking at some data on depression and stress and all of those things that can
mm-hmm,
come when those things go untreated. It's at an
yep,
all-time high. It's at an
mm-hmm,
all-time, like the numbers are absolutely crazy. I wish I had the data in front, but the numbers are really high. Not just at
mm-hmm,
work. I'm just talking about people even just in their homes, right? Experiencing sadness, right?
mm-hmm,
Unhappiness, just not really living their life to their fullest, right?
mm-hmm,
And giving, empowering them in that space to
mm-hmm,
choose themselves and
right.
to make the
Mm-hmm,
call or to jump on the You Are a Warrior app and
yep.
join a community of like-minded individuals who there to support
Mm-hmm,
mental well-being, right? To
right.
tap into Coach Sue, who's offering groups and all kinds of opportunities inside of the app to support where we are emotionally and mentally. And yeah, so I just want to just make sure that the listeners don't miss out on the fact that this is everything that we're going through. There are people who are trained and available to support you talking through that, working through that, so you
Mm-hmm.
can be better on the other side.
Very much so. One of the things near and dear to my heart, February 23rd starts Eating Disorder Awareness Week.
Mm,
And I'm in recovery from an eating disorder. And you're talking about depression and anxiety being so high. Eating disorders are the second most lethal of all mental health
I
diagnoses.
did not know that.
They
Wow.
are second only to opioid addiction. And for a while there, until the came on the scene, eating disorders were number one. And so not they are lethal, first of all, but then also because of the damage that is done to the body if recovery is not found.
Wow.
And eating disorders are an addiction. They are a food addiction. There are multiple numbers of eating disorders. The difference is that in every other addiction, to be to maintain your sobriety, your clean, be clean, etc., you avoid it. You don't do something.
Mm,
With an eating disorder, you have to eat or you will die. So it's different in that regard
mm-hmm.
and more challenging in that regard. And but one of the things I treasure, especially during Eating Disorder Awareness Week, is sharing my story and sharing different aspects and breaking the stigma. There's so much disinformation and misinformation out there about them. So that just as people with depression are suffering in silence, so are people with eating disorders. And in just generally, people are suffering in silence. And there are many people who want to help you, and we need you to pick up the phone or reach out or send a text or send an email or a DM or something. The first step has to be yours. And then you'll have a whole slew of people rallying around you because we do believe in you.
And I want to make sure that people know that they can reach you. You can reach the fabulous
Yes.
Coach Sue. She is absolutely amazing. I mean, her story is amazing, but the way that she works and her intentionality in creating a safe space for people who are looking for that level of support is just really incredible. So, Sue, if people wanted to reach out
Mhm.
to you, do you have a website that they can go to that we could share with them now?
Yeah, they can go to suebowles.com. If you're seeing the video, the address is right at the bottom of the screen. It's suebowles.com. And then I have something on there. If they want to contact me, I there's a place they can even schedule a 15-minute call. I'll get an email and we'll jump on a call. Let's talk. And then also, I have sometimes people aren't ready to do that, but they just need some encouragement. I have what I call the Hump Day Help. I have a text I send out every Wednesday, which is just a little bit of encouragement right to your phone, just to help you get through the week. And you can sign up for that at my website as well.
Well, I love that they can reach you on your website, but they also, right, can be a part of the You Are Warrior family.
Yes, yes,
And
yes, yes,
Sue,
yes.
like I told you, she's amazing and she's there, right? She's there
Mhm.
posting and looking at all of the things that are on the warrior wall and giving you encouragement. So tap into
Mhm.
the You Are a Warrior ecosystem and
Yes.
tap into to a space where you are it's safe. There's no bullying, there's no trolling. It's just an
Mhm.
opportunity
Mhm.
to start down the path to feeling better, right? If you're already feeling better, let's get you to great. If you're already great, let's get to excellent. Like, right? Let's just continue the real work of
Mhm.
supporting each other and being in the spaces where we're being super intentional about doing what's good for us
Mhm.
as an individual and supporting others who are on the same journey with us. You can catch Coach Sue on the app, or and again
Mhm.
you can reach out to her at suebowles.com. Again, it'll be linked under this
Mhm.
video here on YouTube. And again, we are, and it'll also be on all of our other socials. It'll be on Facebook and Instagram. It'll be on all of those, right? So reach out to us, reach out to her again. I hope that this podcast has been very helpful in helping you to understand just a little bit around some of the work that we do at You Are Warrior. But most importantly, I want you to understand how amazing our coaches are. So thank you, Coach Sue. I really
Yes.
appreciate you. Any last thoughts before we sign off?
I love what you said about the app because oftentimes people don't feel they have some place safe to go, and the app is a safe place to go.
I agree. I agree. Thank you so much, my beautiful
Thank
friend.
you. Thanks,
Everybody,
Emily.
we will we appreciate you tuning in. Catch us next week. Remember, this is season 2, so look for episode number 4 next week. All right, everybody. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time on the Warrior Zone podcast. Bye.